So, why haven't we banned war yet? This may seem like a crazy question, but if you look at the history, it's actually kind of surprising. So, all the way back in the 1920s, like 100 years ago, the United States, and the world was already run by the United States back then, but crucially, we didn't have a military industrial complex yet. Back then, with the Kellogg Briand Pact, the United States chose to outlaw war. Obviously, a little bit premature, right before World War II. But like that was a thing we did back then, and it wasn't just like that pie in the sky idea. We also like went into agreements with other military powers to do large scale disarmament. Like we had an agreement in the 1920s with Britain and Japan, like as to how big our militaries would be, and it was capped. Like that was something that we did 100 years ago when we were running the world, and 100 years later we still haven't done that again. Like the standard response to that is that the Kellogg-Briand Pact was ridiculous and stupid, and World War II proves that it was ridiculous and stupid, and you always need war, and you always need arms, you always need a military-industrial complex. And I think that that's certainly a compelling argument that like sounds like it makes sense, but I also think it's deeply, deeply historically ignorant. Yes, in the 1920s, it was, outlawing war was like a crazy thing to do that made no sense. But that's because of the way that the world looked like in the 1920s, that is not the way that the world looks now. The world of the 1920s was still in this incredibly unresolved post World War One environment. A lot of people think World War One and World War Two are just kind of like the same war, like finishing stuff. And what was unresolved was the fact that European countries owned like the entire world, and they were bankrupt European countries. So like it was this just really, really unstable matrix that made war very, very, very likely. The story of the world from like the 1940s until the 1990s is sorting out that mess. Most of the world was still subject to Europe until the 1960s, and but like that's largely broken down. Like we have a world that is completely made up of stable, independent countries. In fact, we are in a much, much better situation where it's much, much more plausible to ban war than it was 100 years ago and the Kellogg-Briand Pact. And it's hard for me to avoid the conclusion that the main reason we haven't banned war and banned war much more successfully than we managed in the 1920s is because of the US military industrial complex.